everybody, it's me, Raid. Welcome back to my channel. Assalamu alaikum. For those of you who are a little new, hi! Don't forget to subscribe. I promise you, inshallah, it will not waste any of your time. I hope to bring to you educational and or entertaining and or inspirational maybe content. So hopefully, yeah, it will never be a waste of time, and it doesn't cost a dime, so why not? Join the family. Click the red button. Click the bell too, why not? Actually, yes, click the bell because I hopefully am trying to upload more regularly and will hopefully establish some sort of a schedule where I upload once or twice a week on designated days. So stay tuned for updates on that. Last night, I was actually on Instagram. I put on my story, what type of videos do you want to see more of? Or like, what type of videos have you enjoyed thus far? And a lot of folks were like, food videos, like we want to see you try to cook and fail. Or a lot of people were like, I want to see you try new foods and do a mukbang. And some folks were like, the spicy noodle challenge. And somebody I live with in particular has been trying to get me to eat ghost peppers in a video. Thanks. But some folks have been asking for other things like more self-care talk, and like inshallah I really do intend for my channel to continue to have that type of content as well. But there were a number of folks who asked that I address everything that's going on in the hijab community. I will be the first to say that I'm by no means a hijabi modest influencer, modest fashion influencer or whatever, and that's not my thing. And I'm also not a sheikha, ustada. I'm not a learned scholarly person of the deen. I'm still a student, and I will forever be a student who makes hella mistakes and is learning a lot as she goes and has a long way to go. But yeah, I will be the first to say and make those disclaimers, but I do think that it might be important for me to put out my voice about this because I recognize that there's a really big issue in the Muslim community right now that nobody is really talking about. Growing up as a Muslim woman in America has always been difficult, will always be difficult. Growing up as a Muslim, period. That's the test, right? Especially in the Western world and in non-Muslim societies. Growing up in America has been particularly interesting because after 9/11, and I still remember this vividly, being told that my faith was wrong or like being told incorrect things about my faith by strangers who were filled with bigotry and just darkness. But basically, growing up as a Muslim in the West, I always felt really proud of my faith and always felt, as a result of that, like I had to be defensive, like always ready to be defensive and to defend my faith, my community, my family, myself, because I always felt like there was judgment coming from outside. And if you fast forward to today, it doesn't, it's weird because now it feels like there's judgment coming from within. And it feels like we are so divided. And like, granted, the ummah will always have its divisions, but like the hijabi community, like the modern hijabi community that is online, is so divided now that like there's just judgment being flung around and blame and just hate gets spewed so easily, and it just hurts my heart, honestly. Like, that's why I really wanted to stay out of everything. I didn't want to know what the hell was happening with Dina Tokio. I didn't want to know what other hijabi influencers were doing. I just didn't want to know, and I didn't want to be influenced in any way particularly. I didn't want to jump in any conversations. I don't want to have judgments in my head about people. Like, yeah, judgments can be natural, but like I didn't feel like it was right for me to be judgmental, and I didn't want any of that. So like, I wanted to stay out of it. But I recognize that because there are so many voices popping out and reacting, none of us are really taking the time to like pause and think. So I just really wanted to open up the table to talk about all this. It feels like the little safe haven of hijabis is a little broken. I remember growing up, like, you know, it was really cool like to see Yaz the Spaz and Dina Tokio, like these Muslim women in the West, a platform in which their voices were amplified, in which they represented other Muslim women's experiences and lives and making us more visible in mainstream media and pop culture, etc. But then it's come to a point where it's like so hard to disentangle Islam and living as a Muslim with the Western world. And that balance, I think, has always been something that like I myself have struggled with. Anybody growing up in a non-Muslim land has struggled with. But at this point, it's so increasingly more and more women are taking their scarves off. Granted, that's them and their journey and their relationship with Allah and their decision, and the repercussions are theirs. And of course, when you see something that isn't right, of course you're supposed to speak up, but you're supposed to do so gently, kindly, in private, right? We are taught these things, we are taught these etiquettes as Muslims, but people aren't doing that, one. But two, also, many of these women who are taking their scarves off are women of power, of influence. For example, Dina Tokio, she is human. She will make mistakes and she will make decisions for herself, right? And whether or not we agree with it or we know that it's not right, it's the way we react that really kind of tells the story. I don't know, it's a really hard balance, because at the end of this all, it just becomes this thing where it's like the hijab has just lost its value. That's to me what it comes down to. Like, I'm not here to bash anybody personally, and I don't want to really like dwell on this whole influencer thing, and I feel like that's what I've been doing for the past 10 minutes. But really what I want to talk about is like the hijab has been commodified. It is commercialized. Islam and Muslims have become the new token of diversity. You know, with different campaign ads popping up from different brands, and seeing like more inclusive campaigns happen in which Muslim faces are being featured, and like hijabs are being launched on different lines. Like, it's really cool, you know, like, wow, step forward for Muslims. But at the same time, it feels very much like a big scheme, because at the end of the day, the hijab becomes commodified as a Western thing, so it loses its inherent meaning as a part of Islam, and is now like just a piece of cloth on someone's head. And when you lose that meaning, that's why it's so easy for somebody to just take it off, because, well, I've already lived my life one way this entire time. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, that's how I'm starting to see people's thinking shift about it, you know? I don't want to see anybody fall, and I don't want to see anybody go through hard times, but clearly people go through hard times and are going through hard times, and people on public platforms are going through hard times. And like, to just shove hate out and emit that like negativity is so detrimental, not just to one person but an entire community, you know? And like, it just makes me feel like everything's so shady, bro. So like, yeah, I just feel like I'm rambling at this point, but at the end of the day, like, at this point in the hijabi community, it just feels like there's like a spectrum, right? There's a whole spectrum. People are at different places in their lives, and their hijab and their relationship with God, and like the hijab and like their status of the hijab doesn't necessarily reflect their relationship with God, because like internally that also matters. But then that brings the whole question of like, there are people out there who are like, what matters is in your heart. What you wear in your head, meh, right? And then there's other folks who are like, no. What matters is how you present yourself, what you wear, because that is a clear indicator of what is in your heart. And no, it's not black and white. It's not simple, and it's not clean cut like that. Both matter. What's in your heart and how you present yourself are intertwined with each other, in a sense that like, if we have good intentions and we fear and love Allah, then we will practice what we're taught and what's prescribed for us, what's good for us. We join in what's good and we don't for what's not, right? Like, okay, let me go back to the whole, like I was talking about, there's a spectrum of hijabi levels or whatever. Like, there's like people at different levels, and like there might be people out there who look at me and are like, her hijab is wrong, or like, she is not covered properly, or ooh, she's wearing color, you know? Like, there are people out there, and then there's other people out there who will look at me and be like, she must be religious. Look at that thing on her head. She probably thinks she's pious. She's probably judging me. You know, like, it's hard because there's people out there who are going to judge you no matter what, from all different angles. And it's hard, but I think that at the end of the day, like, there needs to be a lot more understanding, a lot more compassion, and like room for forgiveness. I want to be able to talk and learn from both sides, and also like offer my experiences too. I don't know, it's really hard because like, it's just, people make it so black and white when it's clearly not. What's happened has happened, and it's just appalling to know that like, in a time when we should really be trying to band together and support one another and stand together as an ummah, we are really just falling apart. yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. I feel like I've been talking a long time, and I think people are home now, so I can't really talk very much more. But stay tuned for like maybe a part 2 follow-up of this whole thing, because I really want to put out there that like, yo, like, what's happening is not right. Don't take off your hijabs, but also like recognize that like we don't control each other and we don't have the right to judge one another. We should try to be gentle in how we guide one another. So yeah, call out what's wrong, but do it in the etiquette that we've been taught from the Sunnah of the Prophet. And I don't know, extend that supportive helping hand versus the hand that pushes away. And for those out there who have influence, use it well, use it sparingly, be cautious. I don't know, it's hard. Assalamu alaikum.